Support for this podcast comes from CLR Clear. For the annoying mess you're facing down in your home, you can fight the clean fight with CLR Clear. Battle against calcium buildup. Go toe-to-toe with toilet scum. Duke it out with disposal rot. The entire line of powerful formulas works hard to vanquish dirt, grime, and deposits all around your home. So KO the crud. Fight the clean fight with CLR Clear. Visit CLRbrands.com to learn more.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Is that Shakespeare?
Nope, it's Geico.
Yeah, that's Shakespeare from one of his unpublished works. Oh, it be not for awakening. Nay, giveth thou the berries. For 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
No, it's from Geico, because they help save people money.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but Geico got it from Shakespeare.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
It's time for Rush Hour with Danny Burke, presented by Bet Rivers.
Welcome into Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers. In for Danny Burke, I'm Scott Seidenberg here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Game 2 of the NBA Finals about 2 hours from now. Tip-off in Phoenix with the Suns holding a 1-0 series lead. And the Suns once again favored in Game 2 here tonight. The line is 4.5 in favor of the Suns. The money line minus 195. The total on tonight's game is at 221. Plenty of props to get into here for Game 2. Similar situation to Game 1. Giannis is playing as he did in Game 1, and he looked great in Game 1. But has our opinion of this series changed? And has our opinion of the prop offerings changed based on what we saw in Game 1? Once again, as you see the graphic on the screen, the Suns minus 195 on the money line at Bet Rivers, 4.5. And it's actually juiced at minus 112 on Bet Rivers with the total at 221. Now, this total opened up at 219, and it rose to 221 with money coming in on the over. I do believe that this is an over series. Both of these teams shoot the ball well. The Bucks, not so much this postseason from the perimeter, but in Game 1, certainly shot the ball well, 44-point-something% from three-point range, so they did better in Game 1. The Suns actually shot poorly from beyond the arc in Game 1, and I expect a regression from both teams here in Game 2. I was on the Suns in Game 1 regardless of Giannis' status. I felt that they had the matchup advantage, and I still believe they have the matchup advantage here in Game 2. But I'm very curious to see how Mike Budenholzer adjusts his defense here in Game 2. In Game 1, he had Drew Holiday playing up against Devin Booker for the majority of that game. In the fourth quarter, he switched Holiday onto Chris Paul, and he had an impact on him in that fourth quarter. Holiday's their best defender, and I think he's better served guarding Chris Paul in this series rather than Devin Booker. Booker's going to get his points for sure. But Chris Paul is such a facilitator, and he can have such an impact on a game, like we saw in Game 1, where he put together a 32-point performance with 9 assists. If Holiday is on Booker again, and Chris Paul can continue to take advantage of the way that the Bucks switched on pick and rolls, he will go at Brook Lopez all night. They will either pass to Ayton, who will be on a smaller player, or Chris Paul will abuse them with the mid-range jumper. Now, if Budenholzer adjusts, puts Holiday on Chris Paul, then I would expect the game to open up for Devin Booker. And Booker's going to need to shoot better than he did in Game 1. He still had 27 points, but he was 1 of 8 from three-point range. I expect Booker to be better tonight from beyond the arc, and I expect him to score a ton of points. That's a prop that we will certainly get to coming up a little later on in this hour. But I do like the Suns in this matchup. I am comfortable laying the 4.5. I think Suns on the money line is an attractive parlay piece. Maybe you did it last night with the Tampa Bay Lightning on the money line. Congratulations to the Lightning, by the way, winning back-to-back Stanley Cups and becoming the first team to win the Cup on home ice since the 2015 Chicago Blackhawks. We're going to take a look at their futures odds coming up in just a few moments. But I do believe the Suns win this game. Game 2 at home, take a 2-0 series lead as the series goes to Milwaukee for Game 3. If you're taking a look at the exact series outcomes, you can make some money here by predicting when exactly you think the series is going to end. Will the Suns pull off a sweep? Will the Suns win in 5 or 6 or 7? Or maybe the Bucks come back and win this series. You certainly get more money value on betting the Bucks. Before this series started, I felt like this was going to be a Suns in 5 series. I didn't expect it to be a gentleman's sweep where the Suns win the first 3 games and then the Bucks win Game 4 and the Suns win Game 5 at home. I think the Bucks win Game 3 at home. I think they'll get a boost by being down 0-2, playing with a little bit of urgency, and being in front of their home crowd. And where they're much better at home on the road this year, I would expect them to win 1 game in Milwaukee, and then the Suns make an adjustment and win Game 4. Let's face it, Monty Williams has outcoached Mike Budenholzer so far in this series. I know it's only been 1 game, but he has been the better coach so far in these NBA Finals. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's Rush Hour presented by Bet Rivers. I'm in for Danny Burke this week here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. You can always hit me up on Twitter at Scott's On Air, or all of us at VSiN at VSiN Live. NBA Finals Game 2, 4.5 is the line for the Suns, and there is a slew of player props that I really enjoy for this game tonight. And it's the same prop that I was all over in Game 1 if you watched this program, and we were successful on that prop bet with DeAndre Ayton going over his point total of 15.5 points. The book has adjusted. On Bet Rivers, DeAndre Ayton's total is now 16.5, and I still believe he goes over. Prior to Game 1, in 5 career games against the Milwaukee Bucks, DeAndre Ayton was averaging 18.6 points per game. He had never scored less than 17 points against this Milwaukee Bucks team and Brook Lopez, who was playing in every single one of those 5 games that they played against this team. Ayton in Game 1 had 22 points with 19 rebounds. And what I love about DeAndre Ayton's game is that he can shoot free throws. 6 of 6 from the line in Game 1, and his field goal percentage, I mean, the guy doesn't miss when he's inside the paint. I expect the Suns to test the Bucks defensively and utilize Ayton in the pick and roll early and often because they want to see if the Bucks make the adjustment to what they did in Game 1. Do they continue to switch, or do they drop coverage? Do they switch and put a lesser body on Ayton and have Brook Lopez out on Chris Paul, and where Chris Paul can just abuse him in the mid-range or kick it to Ayton, who has the size advantage? Or do they fight through the screens, they don't switch, and then Lopez has to stay on Ayton. Chris Paul then opens himself up. Chris Paul can then dish it to somebody else. So I expect them to try and force-feed Ayton early in this game just to figure out what type of adjustments the Bucks make defensively. So I'm going to go over Ayton again, 16.5. I think that's a conservative number. If you count Game 1, again, he's never scored less than 17 points against the Milwaukee Bucks. He did that twice. He scored now 20 or more 3 times against this Bucks team in just 6 career games playing against them, including Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Elsewhere, I look at Devin Booker, and it's a high number. I understand, 28.5. But he scored 27 points in Game 1, shooting 1 of 8 from beyond the arc. He was 8 of 21 from the field. Booker is not going to shoot that poorly again tonight. So if he has any better of a shooting night than he did in Game 1, he's going to score more than 30 points. And I actually think that this is going to be the Devin Booker game. Because I do expect the Bucks to make a defensive adjustment. I do expect them to put Drew Holiday on Chris Paul. And Devin Booker's going to have open looks. Devin Booker's going to have the mismatches. And I think Devin Booker shines tonight, much like Chris Paul did in Game 1. Booker's going to have over 30 tonight. And I would go over the high number of 28.5 for Devin Booker. Speaking of Devin Booker and Chris Paul, If you take a look at the MVP market right now, Chris Paul is your overwhelming favorite. Before the series on Monday, we told you that instead of playing the Suns to win the series at minus 200, you were better off betting Chris Paul at plus 175 to win the Most Valuable Player award. That was the correlation bet there because, in my opinion, I think he's winning the award. Devin Booker was a close second, but right now, with Chris Paul's performance in Game 1, he's at minus 152, and Devin Booker's at plus 400. If you still believe the Suns win this series, it might only take two really good performances from Devin Booker to exceed Chris Paul's stats and have Devin Booker steal this award from Chris Paul. But this is still a long way to go, and we cannot get ahead of ourselves. The Suns still have to win 3 more games. Let's welcome in Mitch Lawrence, SiriusXM NBA host, Mad Dog Radio host as well on SiriusXM. Mitch, Game 2 tonight, are you expecting an adjustment defensively from the Milwaukee Bucks compared to what you saw in Game 1, the way that they defended Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, and that pick and roll?
Scott, if there's not an adjustment, then there should be a coaching change. How about that? I mean, it's amazing. They played the whole game. They never did any adjustments. Have they ever heard of in-game adjustments? I mean, years ago, I'm going to bring up a coach who we all love to cover. One of the great coaches, guys in the Hall of Fame, won a couple of titles in Detroit. And I had a chance to cover him a lot when he came here to the Nets in New Jersey. I was covering the Nets at the time. Chuck Daly, not good, a great in-game adjustment guy. A guy who would see mismatches, a guy who would, hey, if his team had problems doing something, he'd switch it up. Mike Budenholzer, I don't know what he's looking at, but boy, yeah, he better come in with some adjustments. Basically, my thing would be, why don't you just have Drew Holiday guard Chris Paul all over the court, get around picks, get through picks, whatever he has to do, because Drew Holiday is their best defender and has the best chance to slow down a guy who's going to be the Finals MVP. Chris Paul should have been second in the regular season MVP, Scott, and right now the way he's playing, Devin Booker doesn't have a chance to be the MVP because Chris Paul is going to lead the Suns to the title, and he's responsible for making them a championship team.
Oh, I completely agree. It's why I placed that bet before the series started, and I told people instead of laying 2-1 on the Suns to win the series, you go Chris Paul to win the MVP. Also, Mitch, let's face it, it's a voted-on award, right? So the narrative plays a huge role here. And even if Devin Booker bests him in the stat book, Chris Paul's still going to win the award.
He will be the sentimental favorite because you have to remember, Chris Paul before, for the bulk of his career, is a tremendous regular season player, especially with the Clippers. Great regular season player who in the playoffs, unfortunately for Chris, missed time, got, injured, would have to leave a series. Remember, Houston, 2018 in that great Western Conference Finals against Golden State, where they had the Rockets had Golden State on the ropes, and in Game 5 they won. They're up 3-2, but Chris Paul blows out a hamstring, and the series is done. And so he's a guy who hasn't been able to answer the bell. But it's amazing, Scott, in these playoffs, where we've seen countless guys who are all-star caliber, even better, go down in injury, miss time, from Anthony Davis in that Lakers series on up through Kawhi Leonard. Chris Paul's the guy left standing. That's pretty amazing when you think about it because his track record before this year was not very good in terms of avoiding injury.
Yeah, well, he had the shoulder thing early, and you know what's crazy to think about, Mitch? The missed games with the COVID protocol actually might have been to his benefit because his legs look fresher now than anybody else that's playing in these finals. Well,
I'll tell you what else was played to his benefit. The fact that, when they played Denver, it was a 4-game sweep. They didn't have to deal with Jamal Murray. And they've had, this is part of the DNA of the NBA, too. This is not the first time it's ever happened where a team catches a tremendous amount of breaks in terms of you don't see your opponent's best player. And we saw with, Anthony Davis in the last 3 games only played 25 minutes for the Lakers, and he was basically shot because of the groin, the Jamal Murray thing. They don't have to play Kawhi Leonard. It's happened time and again. We saw in the finals a couple of years ago how Toronto won that finals because, basically they didn't have to deal with Kevin Durant. And, in time, it's gone back. I remember there was a great finals in 89 where Magic Johnson came in as he was the league MVP for 89. They're playing the Pistons. The first time the Pistons won it, and they swept the Lakers because Magic Johnson and Byron Scott got hurt in the finals. Back-to-back games, they blew out their hamstrings. And so, we've seen this time and again. right now the Suns are taking advantage of it. But, we'll see what happens from here on out.
Talking to Mitch Lawrence, SiriusXM NBA host, Mad Dog Sports Radio as well. Scott Seidenberg here, Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers on VSiN, the sports betting network. Mitch, which is more likely to happen tonight? The Bucks regress from the three-point shooting that they saw in Game 1 to more like their poor average that they've had this entire postseason, or the Suns, who actually shot poorly from three-point range in Game 1, actually do much better here in Game 2?
Well, I'll tell you what. Devin Booker was 1 of 8 in Game 1. He still had 27 points. That's why I think he's easily going to get 30 tonight, because he's not going to go 1 for 8 again. Mm-hmm. And the Bucks were 16 of 36. That's 44%. I would expect that number to come down. I would expect Phoenix's numbers to climb, especially because you're not going to get a 1 for 8 and an 0 for 5 from Crowder. So they were combined 1 for 13. I think the Suns' numbers on threes go up from 32% overall.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. I mean, the Bucks. Look, this is a traditionally really good three-point shooting team, but for some reason in this postseason, they've been atrocious, 31%. I saw a stat, I think, Mitch, it said that they had the lowest three-point percentage of any finals representative since the 2004 Pistons, believe it or not.
Wow.
And we know that that wasn't a three-point shooting team.
No, definitely not. That's not like the three-point shooting today. I'm kind of not surprised. And here's the problem for the Bucks, and this is why the Bucks are called by Charles Barkley and other people a dumb team. They're missing so many threes that it's like, why aren't they going to the basket more? Because if they were making their threes, right, nobody would have a problem with it. But because they're missing their threes, it was like the Rockets a few years ago in that same series against Golden State where they missed 27 threes in a row. You sit there and you wonder, why do you keep doing it? And that's why the Bucks are still trying to, a team that's never won the title before. And that's what all 4 teams had in common in their Final Four, whether it was Atlanta, whether it was the Bucks, Phoenix, or the Clippers. These teams are trying to figure out how to win titles. And it's not easy. Until they have that knowledge, they really don't know. So some nights they look pretty good. Some nights it gets pretty ugly. But the thing I keep going back to in this series, right now in their last 14 games, the Suns are 12-2. Since May 27th, including a 9-game winning streak. You know who wins 9 straight games in the playoffs? Championship teams. Well, meanwhile, in their last 14 games, the Bucks are 8-6, and a lot of those 6 losses have been pretty ugly when it comes to, we sit there and go, why aren't they pounding the ball inside? Why do they keep shooting threes? That's a hallmark of a team that's trying to figure it out.
Oh, 100%. One of the plays, Mitch, that I loved in Game 1 was DeAndre Ayton's over 15.5-point scoring prop, because in 5 career games leading up to Game 1 against the Milwaukee Bucks and Brook Lopez, he had never scored less than 17 points, averaged 18.6 points per game against the Milwaukee Bucks. He had 22 points in Game 1 with 19 rebounds. And, of course, there's likely to be some adjustments, as we talked about earlier, but the point prop tonight is 16.5 for DeAndre Ayton. Do you expect another solid performance from the big man?
Absolutely. I expect a game where he'll go 10 of 14, 11 of 15 from the floor. The great thing is that they're so unselfish. They look for him. Chris Paul and he work great together. So, yes, I would expect that he will probably I could see him exceeding the 22-point level. And plus, he shoots such a high percentage. The guy basically shoots 80% from the field. So, and he doesn't shoot threes. And the other great thing about him is, unlike other big men or
makes his free throws.
Exactly, 6 or 6 the other night.
Yep, makes his free throws. That's what you have to love about him. I actually think, you probably agree with me, I think they're going to go to him early because they're going to want to see the adjustment that Budenholzer makes. If they decide to go fight through the screens or switch on the screens, they switched so many times in Game 1. But, Chris Paul was just going at Brook Lopez, and Ayton was on a lesser height player. It was just, they're going to go to him early just to see the adjustments.
Well, absolutely. And, the great thing is that Monty Williams basically leaves it in Chris Paul's hands to go out there and orchestrate things the way he sees fit. And Chris Paul, one thing about being 36 years old is he's playing like he's younger, but he's got all that knowledge, right? He has the knowledge. He's seen everything. It's almost like Tom Brady as a quarterback. Chris Paul's seen all kind of coverages. Milwaukee's not going to school him on anything. They're not going to surprise him on anything. And it looks like from the time off that they had, Phoenix went to school on that Milwaukee defense. They knew exactly what to do. The whole game, I don't know, Scott, how you looked at it, but the whole game, Phoenix was just too comfortable in their offense. Mm-hmm. Milwaukee never took them out of anything. Milwaukee never made it hard on them. It all came too easy. I don't know if that's going to change for the Bucks because I think Chris Paul is the type of guy who can figure stuff out on the fly. He's invaluable when it comes to that, and he doesn't turn the ball over.
Exactly. Point guard for a reason. Giannis played in game one, Mitch, and he actually looked pretty good athletic-wise. Scoring, I thought he could have done a couple of different things offensively, but to me, he looked great. And I was talking about it with my producer, Jacob, before the show, that it's easy to get up for game one of the NBA Finals. You're dealing with an injury. There's a lot of adrenaline, whatever treatment he got before the game. But now it's game two. He had a day to rest. Maybe some things are lingering. What do you expect to see from Giannis tonight?
That's a great point. First of all, I'm amazed he played in game one.
So am I.
I did that. I did a post-game show off the game he was injured, and I said that night, just speculating, I think he's done for the playoffs. I mean, the collision with Capella, the way he came down on the knee, that's the third knee injury he's had to the same knee since March 2 years ago, or March a year ago, I should say, pre-bubble. So, 3 knee injuries, same. But he was amazing. He actually, I was stunned by how good, he wasn't playing nearly on one leg. He was actually playing good. Now, the thing about Giannis that's always confounds you is, here's a guy who's been a back-to-back MVP winner. There's only 12 or 13 of those in the history of the league. But what's his track record in the playoffs? Sometimes he definitely struggles with, making the right play, not shooting where he should be. It's just, he confounds you sometimes. He struggles. And, the other night I thought he played very well overall. But this is a quick turnaround off that game. And let me see. I got the box score right here. He played a grand total of, he played 35 minutes, Yep. And so coming off an knee injury, 35 minutes, we're going to see because, you're right. A lot of it's adrenaline. He had missed, basically a week. He missed the last couple of games. So tonight he might be feeling it a little bit more. And, the other thing, too, is if there's a situation where he comes down wrong on that knee again, who's to say he's not going to re-injure it and make it worse? Yeah,
that's the risk that you have here. Mitch, look, it's been years since we spoke. You were at the Daily News. I was at a 4-letter network in the Big Apple. I really appreciate your time. You're the very best, and we'll be listening on Sirius XM.
Hey, Scott, great to talk to you again, and anytime you need me, just give me a holler. Thanks.
Appreciate you, Mitch. There's Mitch Lawrence, Sirius XM NBA, one of the very best covering the sport. And it looks like we're in lockstep tonight with the Suns and a couple of these prop bets, and maybe this series is going to be shorter than what people think. I really do like this 8 and prop. We're going to get more into the prop bets as we continue, and the MVP is certainly going to be Chris Paul as well. You can hit me up on Twitter at Scott's On Air. I'm Scott Seidenberg in for Danny Burke. This is Rush Hour presented by Bet Rivers here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It's crazy how much we have to pay for outdated, impersonal healthcare, and even crazier that we all just accept it. It's time to face facts. Healthcare is backwards. Luckily, there's Forward, a new approach to primary care that's surprisingly personal and refreshingly straightforward. Forward never makes you feel like just another patient. Backed by top-rated doctors and the latest tech, Forward gives you access to personalized care whenever you need it. Using in-depth genetic analysis and real-time blood work, Forward's top-rated doctors provide you with in-depth insights to better understand your genetics, mental, and physical health. They then create custom, easy-to-understand plans to help guide you to achieving long-term health. With Forward, you get unlimited in-person visits with your doctor and access to care anytime via the Forward app, all for one flat monthly fee. It's time to stop accepting backwards healthcare and start moving your health forward. Visit GoForward.com today to learn more. That's GoForward.com.
Summer is finally here, and it's time to get out and enjoy the water, hike, bike, run, and to be back with friends. But life with the hassles of contacts and glasses slows you down. The Eye Center is giving you a summer of freedom thanks to Eye LASIK with iDesign 2.0 from Dr. Boutros. LASIK at the Eye Center is even more affordable with huge savings and 0% financing. Join the thousands of people with clear vision thanks to Dr. Boutros, one of the top surgeons in Virginia with 5 locations. Schedule your free LASIK consultation at theeyecenter.com today.
If you are looking for a hot tip to bet on, BetRivers Sportsbook has you covered every day. Go to the BetRivers app or betrivers.com and find the game you want to bet on. Tap tips and you'll get instant research for the upcoming matchup. Try it out for baseball, soccer, tennis, and a variety of other sports. And to make your experience even more rewarding, BetRivers offers the most live streams of major sports, instant payouts, and only one-time playthrough. BetRivers, your hometown sportsbook. Offer valid in Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Virginia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Available at PlaySugarHouse.com in New Jersey. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Illinois, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. That's 1-800-994-8448. Colorado, 1-800-522-4700. Michigan, 1-800-270-7117. Virginia, 1-888-532-3500. And Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Scott Seidenberg back here on Rush Hour, presented by BetRivers, here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. You can hit me up on Twitter at ScottsOnAir, and tweeted out a couple of baseball plays for this evening. We'll get into that later on this hour. I'll tweet out the prop bets that we're discussing right now here on the NBA Finals Game 2. And Mitch Lawrence, who joined us last segment, seems to be in lockstep with me with DeAndre Ayton over 16.5 points and Devin Booker over 28.5. I think he gets over 30 tonight. You look at what he did in Game 1, scoring 27 points, but he shot 8 of 21 from the field, 1 of 8 from three-point range. He will be better tonight from deep. He will shoot better tonight from the field. He might not be 10 of 10 from the free throw line, but he'll be 8 of 8 or something like that. He'll be better tonight shooting, and I do expect Devin Booker to score over 30 points tonight. So we'll go over on the Devin Booker 28.5. We're going to go over DeAndre Ayton 16.5. He had 22 in Game 1 with 19 rebounds, and I expect the Suns to go at him early. They're going to feed him early in this game because they want to see what defensive adjustments the Milwaukee Bucks make. And based on those adjustments, that's going to determine how the Suns are going to play this game. Is Chris Paul going to keep going at Brook Lopez, hoping that there's going to be some picks on the switch and some switches on the pick and roll? Or is Drew Holiday going to guard Chris Paul the entire game, fight through the screens, and stay with him? So whatever they see early on in this game is going to dictate what the Suns do offensively throughout the course of this game. So I do expect them to go to DeAndre Ayton early and often, and much like it was in Game 1, he should have 10 points easy in this first half. And in Game 1, believe it or not, he had 10 points like halfway through the second quarter, and then he went on a little drought. He obviously sat and rested a little bit, but it was a relatively easy cover of the 15.5. And you're going to get the same tonight with a relatively easy cover of the 16.5. And, Chris Paul to win the most valuable player, the favorite for a reason, as Mitch Lawrence joined us last segment and said he's going to win this award when the Suns win this NBA Finals. The Stanley Cup Final wrapped up last night in Tampa with the Lightning becoming the first team since 2015 and the Chicago Blackhawks to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup on their home ice. And it was a nice sentimental moment for them because they were unable to do it last year. Last year, they won the cup in the bubble. No fans in the arena. They didn't have an opportunity to celebrate with their hometown fans, and they were able to do that last night. So a nice story for the Tampa Bay Lightning, who win back-to-back Stanley Cups. The first time that's happened since, well, just a couple of years ago when the Pittsburgh Penguins won back-to-back Stanley Cups. Andrei Vasilevskiy won the Conn Smythe, and he was incredible. I thought it was a two-man race going into last night's game, and depending on what happened in Game 5, that's who would win the award. If Nikita Kucherov, who led the postseason in points, had a multi-point game, and he was the reason why they won Game 5, you could have made the argument for him to win the Conn Smythe. But Vasilevskiy did something that he has been doing all postseason and even dating back to last season's Stanley Cup Final. And that is pitch a shutout in a series-clinching game. In every series-clinching game, going back to last year's Stanley Cup Final, Andrei Vasilevskiy has finished the game with a shutout. And that is the reason why they are Stanley Cup champions for the second year in a row. And if you're looking at the odds to win the 2021-2022 Stanley Cup, Well, the Lightning are your third favorite at 7-1, plus 700 at Bet Rivers. Avalanche are your favorite at plus 500, followed by the Vegas Golden Knights. And then after the Lightning, Maple Leafs, Bruins, and Hurricanes. It's going to be an interesting offseason for the Lightning. We'll see what they do with their cap situation and what they do with the expansion draft. I'm Scott Seidenberg here on Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers. VSiN is your betting headquarters for UFC 264. We're bringing you in-depth analysis of the McGregor-Poirier main event, plus key bouts on the undercard from our full team of experts, including Lou Finocchiaro, Reed Kuhn, and Jordan Sherwood. Sign up for the free VSiN newsletter to receive our digital guide and tune in Saturday at noon Eastern for First Strike, our live preview show with updates from all of our fight experts. Get everything you need for betting on UFC 264 and sign up now for the free UFC 264 betting guide at vsin.com/free. Scott Seidenberg back here on Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers here on VSiN, the sports betting network. And speaking of UFC, we're going to do plenty of UFC preview coming up tomorrow, our last show before the weekend. It is a huge fight card at T-Mobile Arena, and we're waiting on the odds to obviously shift with Poirier and McGregor, hoping that some public money comes in over the weekend or over the Friday, Saturday on McGregor, which is always expected in a McGregor fight. And then we're probably going to hammer Poirier. But we'll get more into that coming up on tomorrow's show. Those of you who follow me on Twitter at Scott's On Air, who have heard me do radio shows and podcasts before, know that I am a big college football guy. Growing up in the Northeast, it's kind of awkward because not many of us are college football guys, but I fell in love with it, man. I really do love me some college football. And I was looking at the win totals for this upcoming season, and one team jumped out at me as the best bet to exceed their win total. And it's a high one. But it's the Georgia Bulldogs. 10.5 is their win total number at Bet Rivers. It's juiced to the over. But when you look at this Georgia team and you look at how they played last year when JT Daniels was healthy at the quarterback position, you look at what they're capable of doing defensively, and look at the ease of their schedule, where they don't play Alabama up until the SEC title game, but that doesn't count here in the win totals. They don't play LSU. They have one tough game right off the bat. Neutral site against Clemson. It's in Charlotte, so it might as well be a home game for Clemson. And then neutral site against Florida in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, if we're even calling that now these days. I don't think we're allowed to call that anyway, but that's in Jacksonville. Those are the only two games on their schedule where they will possibly take a loss. Clemson's the only game where they're going to be an underdog. It's only 3.5 the line. And that's a very winnable game for Georgia. Every other game on their schedule, Georgia will be a favorite to win, and Georgia will win. The toughest game, as I mentioned, is that Florida game. But Florida is a different team this year, going through a transition after losing so many players last season. Georgia, with a healthy quarterback, with a top-tier recruiting class that came in, with a defense that's capable of shutting down every team they play against, this is a team that, in my opinion, rolls through their entire schedule. And I don't know what Tennessee's going to look like when they play them on Saturday, November 13th. They obviously have to go to Knoxville and play them there at Neyland. I think that this Georgia team is at worst 11-1. And that's only if they lose that game to Clemson week 1. If they beat Clemson, they're going to be undefeated going into that SEC title game against Alabama with a very good chance to make the college football playoff, win or lose. But forget about the SEC title game right now. Let's just look at their schedule. As I mentioned, Clemson, neutral site, but it's in Charlotte. UAB, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Auburn, Kentucky, Florida in Jacksonville, Missouri, Tennessee, Charleston Southern, and Georgia Tech. At the very worst, this is an 11-1 football team. Take the over 10.5 on the Georgia Bulldogs. Another team that's future looks very appealing to me is the Oklahoma Sooners. This is going to be the best defense that we've seen from Oklahoma in several years. This is going to be the most complete Oklahoma team that we've seen in several years. Spencer Rattler, Heisman Trophy favorite for a good reason. Lincoln Riley just knows what he's doing with these quarterbacks. And look at this schedule. Tulane, Western Carolina, Nebraska, West Virginia, Kansas State, Texas. That's the neutral site game at the Cotton Bowl. TCU, Kansas, Texas Tech, Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. I see one potential hiccup on this schedule. Now, some would say it's the Iowa State game, but that game's in Norman, and Oklahoma's going to be favored in that game. Bedlam could be a letdown spot because it's in Stillwater, and it's the week after you play Iowa State. Now, the Iowa State game could very well be the Big 12 title game preview. And so you wonder if there's a potential letdown for Oklahoma should they beat Iowa State and then have to go on the road to Oklahoma State where their entire season is going to come down to that Bedlam game. But I look at this Oklahoma team, the players that they brought back, the way that they looked last year, the way that this defense has been improved, and this schedule compared to the teams that I see so far in the Big 12 as I'm doing my preseason previews and scouting these teams, not only do I think Oklahoma wins the Big 12, I think Oklahoma goes undefeated and makes it to the college football playoff. Right now on BetRivers, you can get Oklahoma to win the Big 12 at minus 143. That is very low juice. And if you want to risk it just to reach the Big 12 title game, minus 335, that should be like minus 1,300. Because there's no way, in my opinion, that Oklahoma does not reach the the Big 12 title game. But I really do think that this is a college football playoff team in Oklahoma. However, in week 1, there's a sneaky spot for them. They play at Tulane in week 1, and the odds were up. They're not up now. They'll probably be re-released soon, but they're laying over 3 touchdowns the last I saw, 22.5 the last I saw at Tulane. Willie Fritz and that offense, it's kind of awkward to go against. I know they lost a lot of players from last year's team, but they reloaded, and it's a dangerous spot. Tulane is a very decent team in that conference. They're a sneaky good team. They're not going to pull the upset. They're going to lose by 2 touchdowns. But losing by 3 scores, that I don't think is going to happen. I'm Scott Seidenberg here in for Danny Burke on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Some baseball plays coming up next right here on Rush Hour, presented by BetRivers.
To show you how easy it is to file a claim with Geico, we hired a soap opera star.
Gracious me, my car has storm damage and I've had to file a claim. Could it possibly get worse? Will my claims team leave me for someone else? Someone less intense?
No. Actually, when you file a claim with Geico, you get your own dedicated claims team who promises to stay with you throughout the process.
Oh, I've never known such loyalty. I can't wait for the second season.
Geico. Great service without all the drama.
The Jaguar F-Type doesn't just go from point A to point B. It takes you places few will ever experience, Climb into the driver-focused cockpit. Start the engine with a simple push of a button, and suddenly it's just you and 575 horsepower. 8 gears shifting. The agile suspension hugging the road. The rest of the world just melting away, till everything else becomes a blur. And while the engine is a symphony in itself, feel free to lose yourself in your own soundtrack with the available 825-watt Meridian surround sound system. The Jaguar F-Type, an exhilarating combination of design and performance, makes it like no other sports car in the world. Learn more at jaguarusa.com.
If you're looking for a hot tip to bet on, BetRivers Sportsbook has you covered every day. Go to the BetRivers app or betrivers.com and find the game you want to bet on. Tap tips and you'll get instant research for the upcoming matchup. Try it out for baseball, soccer, tennis, and a variety of other sports. And to make your experience even more rewarding, BetRivers offers the most live streams of major sports, instant payouts, and only one-time playthrough. BetRivers, your hometown sportsbook. Offer valid in Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Virginia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Available at PlaySugarHouse.com in New Jersey. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Illinois, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. That's 1-800-994-8448. Colorado, 1-800-522-4700. Michigan, 1-800-270-7117. Virginia, 1-888-532-3500. And Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Scott Seidenberg back here on Rush Hour, presented by BetRivers. You can hit me up on Twitter at Scott's On Air, where I tweeted out some NBA plays for tonight. I'm on the Suns -4.5, and I am also on the DeAndre Ayton over 16.5 points, and Devin Booker over 28.5 points. And DeAndre Ayton, I saw a points, rebounds, assists around 30.5 or 31. I do like that to go over because he will have double-digit assists tonight. Double-digit rebounds tonight. And I expect him to have 20-somewhat points tonight. So we'll go with Ayton. I'm going to play him heavy pretty much in every game of this series and see how the books adjust. We're going to get into Major League Baseball's Home Run Derby on tomorrow's show. We'll break down the odds to win the Home Run Derby. The bracket was unveiled yesterday, so we'll wait to see how the odds stack up, and we'll take a look at that tomorrow as we preview the weekend's action and then forecast ahead to next week. But there's a couple of games that will begin as we get off the air here tonight. Some games that are in progress right now, but 4 games after we conclude here. It is the Phillies and Cubs, the Reds and the Brewers, the Tigers and the Twins, Nationals and Padres. There's 4 plays, but I like plays in every single one of these games. And I am attacking the first 5 innings. If you listen to the show all week, you watch this show all week, you know I'm a first 5 bettor when it comes to Major League Baseball. I really like handicapping the starting pitching and looking at what these teams have done in the first 5 innings of these games. So I am going to attack the first 5 here tonight with these games. And let's start with the Phillies and the Cubs, because that one is really interesting to me. If you look at the Cubs, the way that they snapped their losing skid against the Phillies here yesterday, well, they're scoring some runs. And the wind is blowing in at Wrigley Field today. So the total for the game is actually a low number. They do this a lot when it comes to the wind at Wrigley, so that's why the total for this game is such a low number. But it has been a high-scoring series. Now, you look at the starting pitchers. Zach Eflin has allowed 2 or more runs in 12 of his 16 starts this season. Meanwhile, Alzolay has allowed 2 or more runs in 12 of his 14 starts. The Phillies and the Cubs combined this season average well over 5 runs per first 5 innings. And right now, the first 5 inning total is 3.5 runs. And based on these offensive performances, what we have seen so far in this series at Wrigley, despite the wind blowing in, looking at these offenses compared to these starting pitchers, again, Eflin has allowed 2 or more runs in 12 of 16 starts. Alzolay has allowed 2 or more runs in 12 of 14 starts. If each of them allow 2 runs here in the first 5 innings, we will hit this over 3.5 runs. Give me the over in the first 5 between the Phillies and the Cubs. Moving on to our second game of the night, the Cincinnati Reds take on the Milwaukee Brewers. Tyler Mahle on the hill against Adrian Hauser, and I like the Cincinnati Reds here on the first 5. The Reds are 8th in Major League Baseball, averaging 2.67 runs per first 5 innings, while the Brewers average just 2.18 runs per first 5. But let's look at the pitchers. Mahle this season is 5-1 with a 2.01 ERA on the road. He faced the Brewers back on June 16th, struck out 12 batters, allowing just 1 run in 6 innings. Hauser, meanwhile, is 1-3 with a 3.96 ERA at home this year. He faced the Reds twice this season. He had a really good start, allowing just 1 run in 5 1/3 innings, but he had a really bad start also, allowing 6 runs in 4 innings. That's a total of 7 runs allowed in 9 1/3 innings this season against the Cincinnati Reds. So based on Mahle's success on the road compared to Hauser's difficulties at home, the fact that the Reds are averaging more runs in the first 5 innings than the Brewers, I'm going to go with the Reds on the first 5-inning line at, what is it now? It's got to be minus 115, if not less than that on Bet Rivers. I like the Reds to take care of business in the first 5 innings against the Milwaukee Brewers. My third game that I like is the Tigers. Yeah, the Tigers are actually good. People think they're bad. They're not. Tigers against the Twins, and I'm going to attack the first 5 once again and go with the Tigers here in the first 5. The Tigers are 6-1 in Tariq Skubal's last 7 starts. Overall, they're 7-3 in their last 10 games. They're 12-8 over their last 20 games, playing some real good baseball. They're the 6th most profitable team this year on the first 5-inning money line. Let me repeat that. The Tigers are the 6th most profitable team on the first 5-inning money line this season. The Minnesota Twins, meanwhile, the 3rd worst team on the first 5-inning money line. 3rd worst. There's only 2 other teams that have cost you more money on the first 5-inning money line than the Minnesota Twins. Jay Happ is starting for Minnesota. He has allowed 2 or more runs in every single one of his last 10 starts. In 9 of those starts, he has allowed home runs. In 4 of those starts, he has allowed multiple home runs. So we are going to pick on Jay Happ, and we are going to pick on the Twins, and we're going to back the Tigers on the first 5-inning line. Tigers, first 5 innings, plus 102. You could get even more plus money. Bet Rivers has the odds right now for the game. They're plus 117, plus 112 for the first 5 innings. So give me the Tigers, plus 112 for the first 5 innings over the Minnesota Twins. Let's take a look at the last game of the night. And it's not one that if I had to pick, I'm kind of favoring the first 3 ones that I told you over this last one. But since it's the only one left on the board, let's give a play for it, shall we? And why not? Let's attack the first 5 innings. The Nationals take on the Padres, Max Scherzer against Yu Darvish. And the Nationals lineup's a little banged up. The Trey Turner is back, which makes you feel a little better about their lineup. But here's what you have to feel good about if you are the Nationals, and that's Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer, let me read you his last, we'll go last 5 starts. 1 run in 6 innings, 1 run in 6 innings, 1 run in 5 innings, 1 run in 7 2/3 innings. And he had a short start, which he had to leave the game early. But how about this, incredible run that Max Scherzer is on? In fact, he has only allowed, the last time he allowed more than 2 runs in a start was back in April. That's it. Every single one of his starts has been 2 runs or less since April. Scherzer is hot right now. So I'm going to back Scherzer and the Nationals getting plus money value on the first 5 innings going up against the Padres and Yu Darvish. Looking at Yu Darvish's last couple of starts, 4 runs in 6 innings, 1 run in 6 innings, 1 run in 6 innings, 4 runs in 5 innings, 2 runs in 7 innings, 2 runs in 5 and a third, 4 runs in 5 innings. He has given up runs in every single one's, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. His last 8 starts, Yu Darvish has allowed runs to be scored. So I'm going to pick on the pitchers here, and I'm going to go for the pitcher that has not been allowing runs and against the pitcher that is allowing runs. I'll go Nationals on that first 5 plus money value. What is it now? I guess it's plus 123 on the money line. So the first 5 could be a little less than that, but those are the first 5 plays that I like here for tonight's game. Phillies, Cubs over 3.5. Reds, first 5 against the Brewers. Tigers, first 5 against the Twins. Nationals, first 5 against the Padres. If you want to lay a little bit of juice, not a bad play to go Tigers plus a half a run against the Twins. Nationals plus a half a run against the Padres. I like those plays as well. And this way, if it's tied, you actually get the win as opposed to the push on the first 5 money line. Reds, I don't think you need to because I think the Reds will have a lead. No need to bet the minus a half and go for the plus money. Just stick with the low money on the money line, and then you'll have the little push protection there. And I do think the Phillies and Cubs will exceed that 3.5 run total, despite the wind blowing in at Wrigley Field. Once again, NBA Finals Game 2 tips off about a little over an hour or so from now. It never tips off on time. You have all the pregame pomp and circumstance. So I'm going to go with a couple of props here. DeAndre Ayton over the 16.5. I also like Ayton's points plus rebounds to go over 30.5. Because I do think he has double-digit rebounds and 20 points tonight, so that'll easily exceed the 30 mark. I like Booker to have over 28.5 points because I expect the Bucks to make some sort of adjustment on defense and put Drew Holiday on Chris Paul, which will free up Devin Booker. And Booker had 27 points in Game 1 when he shot just 1 of 8 from three-point range, so I expect him to be much better from three-point range here in Game 2 tonight. I also like the Suns to win and cover, so I'll go Suns minus 4.5, Booker over 28.5, Ayton over 16.5. I'm Scott Seidenberg. This has been Rush Hour, presented by Bet Rivers here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Been thinking about McDonald's all day. Can't get it off my mind. I can already taste it. Ooh, got my mind on my mouth and my mouth ready for some Mickey D's deal.
There's a deal for every moment at McDonald's.
Right now, get 2 of your favorites for just $3.50. Mix and match a classic McChicken, a hot and spicy McChicken, or a juicy McDouble. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with combo meal. Single item at regular price.
On the Haunted Road podcast, join Amy Bruni, star of the hit TV show Ghost Hunters, for a guided tour of America's most haunted locations and hear from the expert paranormal investigators who've experienced these places firsthand.
You'll be in the building all alone and you'll hear conversations down the hallways. It'll be more than one person. When you're in that building, it just really feels like something's just standing over your shoulder.
Listen to Haunted Road with Amy Bruni on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.